morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. And today I'm delighted, ladies and gentlemen. I am delighted because recently I have shown you a winning Cinderace V deck and a winning Rillaboom V deck. Well, it turns out Inteleon V is actually doing really, really well. Like, so well, I've got 3 winning deck lists that I can show you that have all gone and won different tournaments over in Japan. This might actually be a legitimately awesome deck, and that makes me legitimately excited. Though I will say, the 3 builds we've got here are, not all exactly the same. Yeah, there's some quite big differences. So Inteleon V then, what do we find? Well, Inteleon V for 1 water energy, 40 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. Fine, as an early game, I've got nothing else attack, but not much better than that. But 2 water, 1 colorless energy, 130, your opponent reveals their hand. Again, it's fine, but it's not good. And we want good, ladies and gentlemen. We want good. But then we get into Inteleon VMAX, and we get kind of good. You see, it's got 320 HP, which is kind of gigantic. And 1 water energy, 20 damage. You may return an energy from your opponent's active Pokemon to their hand. Now, this sounds alright. Sounds quite good. Sounds like it might be fun. But one thing that we actually see in all of the decks that this is seeing play in is Team Yell Grunt. And you see, Team Yell Grunt makes a fairly gigantic difference here. Because Team Yell Grunt, what you do is you find an energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon, or indeed one of their bench if you prefer, and you put it into their hand. Yeah, this actually works very nicely indeed. And now we've got genuine energy denial. Not just getting rid of an energy or 2 here or there, but genuine actual energy denial. You're only doing 60 damage, but we can keep going. Because you see, another common theme we see in these decks is Crushing Hammer, which is another card that gets rid of your opponent's energy. Now, it is on a coin flip, admittedly, but it gets rid of energy. And that's kind of how we can play this here. We can play this as an actual energy denial deck. But it's not just an energy denial deck, because we've also got free energy, 160, plus 60 to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. And I think people are sleeping on this a bit. You see, here's something I've realised in early testing of the Sword and Shield format. There's not a huge difference between doing 160 to 180 and doing like 210, 200 damage. Because you see, you're in 2-hit KO territory. And sure, once you hit 220, then you're 1-hit KOing Zacian, and that's a thing. And once you hit 270, you're 1-hit KOing Mewtwo and Mew. But really, when you're in 2-hit KO territory, you're in 2-hit KO territory. And the thing is, you're doing 60 to the bench. So let's say your opponent's playing a Frostmoth deck, like we are, more on that in a minute. Well, Snom's going down. If they're playing a Malamar deck, then Inkay is going down. There's plenty of evolving Pokemon that will be KO'd by this. And that's actually pretty awesome. But let's say you're not KOing evolving Pokemon, although I think that is one of the better uses for it. I told you about Zacian earlier. Zacian's got 220. So if you hit it on the bench for 60 and then hit it for 160, oh look, that's 220. And sure, maybe they've got Metal Frying Pan or something like that and they reduce the damage. That will happen sometimes. But if it doesn't, you've got the KO. Although as a side note, if Mew becomes more prevalent, this will become a bit more of an issue. And that's the thing there. We've got 60 damage plus energy denial, or we've got 2-hit KOing combined with bench damage. And this all adds up to a very versatile Pokemon with a few different ways to play it. And like I've said, the 3 different deck lists we've got here are very much different deck lists. Because, okay, 2 of them play Frostmoth, but one of them doesn't even play Frostmoth. So let's run through the general list, shall we? One of them is a full-bore Inteleon list, and it plays the Inteleon from Sword and Shield, with obviously the Drizzile. Now that gives you the extra consistency. When you evolve up into Inteleon, you search your deck for any 2 trainer cards. When you evolve up into Drizzile, you search your deck for any 1 trainer card. So that means that you're going to be constantly grabbing out the trainer cards that you need, which is a very handy thing indeed. And that deck does play Frostmoth. Frostmoth lets you attach as many water energy as you like during your turn, just so long as you're attaching them to water Pokemon, and those water Pokemon are on the bench. But Inteleon V is a water Pokemon, so we're all right here. As a side note, you can just use Inteleon as quite a nice non-GX attacker. That is an option that we have, because the Inteleon from Sword and Shield can do 120 to the active, 20 to one of your opponent's bench for just 2 energy. And if you want a single prize attacker, that i.e. they're not giving up multiple prizes when KO'd, this is a pretty good option. Another one on the list does play Frostmoth, but it gets a little bit techier. It doesn't play Inteleon, just Inteleon V and VMAX. And it plays Dubwool V. Now, Dubwool V, I think, is going to be a one-of in a whole bunch of decks. What it does is, firstly, 210 HP, plus it takes 30 less from attacks, not to be slept on. But what it also does here, for free colourless energy, 120 damage, plus 30 more for each prize card that your opponent has taken. Although it is very, very important to note, Frostmoth will not attach energy to Dubwool. That won't work. But one thing you need to remember here is that you're attaching energy to Inteleon using Frostmoth, which means you've still got your attachment for the turn, so you can't just attach 1 energy per turn to Dubwool, getting it ready for the later game. And no, it might not be the most efficient way to do it, but it'll work. And weirdly, the deck also plays Marshadow and Machamp, of all things. And Marshadow and Machamp, now this is possible because we play Aurora Energy, and that counts as any energy as long as you attach it while discarding a card from your hand, which is usually not a giant deal here. And we also do play Karate Belt to reduce the attack cost by 1 if you're behind on prizes. And then you can use Revenge. If any of your Pokemon were knocked out by damage from an opponent's attack during their last turn, you do 90 more damage. One of the biggest uses for this, of course, is that it gets a 1-hit KO on Pikachu and Zekrom. So that's something to bear in mind. That could work quite nicely. And then the third list that we see here actually plays it not with Frostmoth at all, but it plays it with Cinccino. Now, Cinccino's got that amazing ability that lets you draw extra cards, don't sleep on that. But Cinccino's also got an attack which does 40 damage and attaches an energy from your discard to one of your bench Pokemon. So what you can actually do here is use Cinccino in the early game and then roll from there. Spread a bit of damage, do a little bit of damage, and then bring in Inteleon to do the big smashing. That can work very, very nicely indeed. It's quite an adaptable deck. There are a few different things that you can be doing with this that makes it kinda cool, if I'm honest with you. So fair to say we got a few options here. Now clearly in terms of energy, it's water energy primarily, but Aurora energy is a really good option if you are wanting to use any other Pokemon here. And it really is fun knowing that because you're using your Frostmoth to attach your water energy, Aurora energy once per turn at least is basically a free attachment. Now, in terms of trainer cards, a lot of the time what we're seeing is what we expect. We still love Professor's Research. We still love Cynthia. They're still the best draw cards we've got. We're still playing Quick Ball to get all of our basics and maybe the odd evolution incense to go and get our evolution Pokemon. We're still playing Air Balloon to give ourselves free retreat. We're still using Ordinary Rod for a little bit of recovery. The kind of weirder things here, don't forget we got Full Bucket now, which lets you search your deck for 2 water energy and put them in your hand. Absolutely phenomenal when we are combining it with Inteleon here when you're using Frostmoth to accelerate the energy. That's kind of cool. I did tell you about the whole energy denial with Team Yell Grunt and Crushing Hammer. That is definitely something we need to bear in mind here. And energy retrieval, now that it's been reprinted in Sword and Shield, does become a phenomenal card because you can recover it and then immediately attach it using Frostmoth. Outside of that, the deck is largely what we might expect. A lot of the time we're playing a couple copies of Marnie for a bit of draw / a little bit of disruption, and our choices for gusting are either Custom Catcher if you play 2 at once, Pokemon Catcher if you're willing to take the coin flip, or Great Catcher if you're pretty sure you're only going to want to gust up EXs and GXs. I must confess I wasn't loving Inteleon V and VMAX when I saw them. But it's won a few tournaments already. Will it end up being as good as Cinderace? It hits Cinderace for weakness, which I suppose is nice. But I'm not entirely sure. What I do know is that we've seen all 3 of the first partner Pokemon from Sword and Shield in their V forms winning on the very first weekend, that VMAX Rising is legal for tournament play, and that alone makes me rather delighted. But I'd like to know what you think about this deck. I'd like to know if you're buying it, if you think it's good, or whether you think it's early hype. Let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays, where you can find out about a whole bunch of games that don't have Pokemon in, but are very much worth your time and attention. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.